It's Em. And yesterday, my family and I participated in the cultural phenomenon known as Barbenheimer, or in our case, more like an Oppenbie, because we watched Oppenheimer first, took a dinner break, and then saw Barbie. And I'm here to talk about it. So, at face value, Oppenheimer and Barbie wouldn't typically be considered movies that would draw the same audience. It's called counter-programming in the industry, and it's where a movie of one type opens opposite a movie of a very different type, with the idea that you don't split your potential audience, you have something for two different sets of viewers. The people who go see Barbie won't necessarily be interested in Oppenheimer, and vice versa is generally the idea, but whether this was a genius marketing or just some kind of weird organic cultural phenomenon, what we ended up with was this Barbenheimer, people seeing both movies, and it became kind of a moment in pop culture, at least in the US. I don't know about internationally, but so we decided to participate in that because we were interested in both movies. My boys more in Oppenheimer, my middle child and I more in Barbie, although I think at the end of the day the consensus was that Oppenheimer was better. Maybe because we started fresh with that one, maybe because the audience in Oppenheimer was a little less obnoxious. But that said, let's talk about each movie individually and then the collective experience. So a little bit of a word of warning here. I'm not going to actively attempt to spoil anything about these movies, but I'm also not going to try and mask anything. So I may summarize plots or discuss plot points that if you want to go into the movie blind, I would recommend waiting until after you've seen the films to come back and watch this. If you don't mind that you might hear some plot points that you didn't know going in, stick around. In any case, Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan's latest film. Nolan is known for a lot of things, epic kind of films, beautifully cinematic and well-edited films, interesting things with sound, for example, and visuals. I like Nolan. I don't love him. I really, really like The Prestige. I like Inception pretty well. I thought the Batman movies were okay, and I hated Tenet. And I know he's done others, but those are the ones that come to mind. So going into Oppenheimer, I, was kind of neutral. But I ended up really, really enjoying it. It is a character study of Oppenheimer, not from childhood, but basically from about the late 1920s through his development of the atom bomb and the Manhattan Project, and then afterward his accusations of being a communist, basically his security clearance being taken away. Well, I think more like it expired and didn't get renewed. Now, we live in a town that has some intimate connections with some of the characters featured in Oppenheimer, so it was an interesting experience from that standpoint. The people behind us were a bunch of physicists who laughed at some very bizarre moments, I would say, but overall the audience was a good one. If you've seen, I think my last viewing video where I did the little rant about why I hadn't been going to the cinema lately, and it's because the viewing experience there, being surrounded by certain kinds of people who have decided that their public behavior doesn't matter, that they'll just behave however they want, has ruined the cinematic experience for me. In this case, I was very aware. I mean, they made their presence known. There was a lot of getting up and knocking the backs of seats and things like that, that was distracting at different moments. But overall, I would say that audience-wise, it was a good group. And the movie was riveting. It's long, but it did not feel long. I should say I found it riveting. It's not like some action movie. Like I said, it's largely a character study. You're kind of exploring Oppenheimer's mind, his ways of thinking. And, you know, I don't know. I did really, really like it. Did I like it as much as The Prestige? Maybe. I probably liked it more than Inception, and to me those are the two Christopher Nolan movies I like the most, so that ranks it pretty high up there. Can I see Cillian Murphy getting an Oscar? Absolutely. I think Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss was really, really good as well. Josh Hartnett turns in an incredible, if not he's not on screen a whole lot, but as Lawrence, he does really well. It was one of those things where I kept looking at him and going, who is that actor? He looks so familiar. And then when I realized who it was, I was like, oh, wow, I don't know. You see the actor in a new way. There's something really delightful about seeing actors being given the chance to do something a little different and exploring their range a little bit rather than seeing actors do the same kind of thing over and over. I typically am not a Cillian Murphy fan, but here, I don't know, it really worked for me. So yeah, I definitely recommend Oppenheimer. We did not see it on IMAX. I could really actually kind of see going to see it on IMAX, because I would see it again. I would. And we do have an IMAX theater nearby that is showing it, so that I would actually consider doing that, going back to the cinema again just to see this movie again on an even bigger screen. So yeah, Oppenheimer gets a recommendation from me if you like this kind of thing. Now, yes, there is some questionable sexual content. I think some people are considering it gratuitous or used for shock value, and maybe, but I think it was more like the use of Sanskrit scripture during a sex scene was a little bit questionable. I've heard that there have been some protests about that, and I could see why. I get what Nolan was going for there, and at the same time, my kids, they win. It's a rated R movie, but they've seen R movies before, but they're all kind of like this when everybody's naked. Yeah, I don't know that it added a whole lot to the film. I can see why they wanted to have Jean, the character of Jean, as part of it, to show Oppenheimer's womanizing. She kind of is the stand-in for his infidelity. And honestly, the women in this movie do get kind of short shrift. We get Jean, we get Kitty, like Oppenheimer's actual wife, in bits and pieces, but they're ancillary largely. They turn in great performances, no lie, and again, I can see that the whole point though of them is to fill out your understanding of Oppenheimer himself. They're not, you don't get a lot of their characters in their own right, because it isn't their movie. maybe someone should do that one next. But anyway, yes, overall though, I really, really enjoyed it. Everybody in the family really enjoyed it. My son's name is Robert. I had to ask him. I said, is it weird watching a movie where people are saying your name all the time? And he's like, yeah, kind of. But anyway, it was good. So moving on to Barbie. That one, okay, so, it was our dessert movie, right? And so we had popcorn for Oppenheimer and we had candy for Barbie. And that seemed to be the right way to go. Barbie is a very bright and colorful film set at first in Barbie land, where everything is about Barbie and everything revolves around Barbie, and Barbie is, she's the president, she's all of the Supreme Court justices, she's the the doctors and all these things, and Ken is just kind of there hanging out, and because Ken's whole purpose for existing is to be kind of Barbie ancillary, I wouldn't even say a sidekick, because Barbie has all her other Barbie friends, and she, she doesn't really have any use for Ken or any need for him, but he needs her. So there's a power dynamic that is not balanced. And then the stereotypical Barbie, which is played by Margot Robbie, starts to develop some weird thoughts, and she gets cellulite and she gets flat feet, and is told by Weird Barbie being Kate McKinnon, I think, and this is the Barbie that some little girl has cut the hair off of and colored on her face, and that she needs to go to the real world, find out who's playing with her and messing her up, and then apparently that somehow she can fix this and come back to Barbie land and be herself again. So Barbie and Ken go into the real world. Ken discovers patriarchy and brings that back to Barbie land, which upsets the balance in the other direction. And, it goes from there. It is very on the nose and heavy-handed with its messaging. I will say I understand why it's caused the furor that it has in certain circles. It has a good message. It's a very gendered space, Barbie and Ken. So my non-binary child had a little bit of difficulty finding themselves in this movie or relating to it in any way. But overall, it's a lot of fun. It says a little something. That Ken goes into a school library and finds all these books on manly men and patriarchy, and I'm like, is this a little bit of a ding at them taking out certain kinds of books from schools in some places, and this is the kind of books that they're leaving in the schools for kids to read? I don't know. But what's interesting to me about this movie is that the male characters turn out to be a lot more fun and entertaining and interesting than the Barbies. And this is my opinion, obviously, but Ryan Gosling as Ken, Will Ferrell as the head of the Mattel Corporation, who they're trying to find the Barbie that's loose in the real world and get her back into her box. Again, very on the nose messaging here about keeping women in their place. And they're funner, and the scenes with them in it are a lot just more fun and entertaining than Barbie's actual existential crisis, even though it was funny. At one point, America Ferrera gives this speech about all the things women are expected to be and do and how we can't win. And definitely I identified with that, and there were women in the theater saying amen and things like that. Meanwhile, at one point when they showed Margot Robbie, some guy in the theater was like, she's so hot, and everybody laughed, Again, the audience for this film was far less agreeable, I would say. There were people who had brought little babies that were crying through this movie. There was a woman who brought in a bunch of kids and left them there and walked out like little kids. This is not a little kid movie. It is PG-13. This is not this movie is dealing with subjects that little kids are not really gonna have any kind of connection to, and there's not enough other fun, zany stuff going on to really entertain them, because the focus of this movie is literally, sorry, I gotta stretch my legs, I'm falling asleep. The whole point of this movie is literally to explore this theme of patriarchy versus, or I don't know. In any case, was it cute? Yes. I didn't find it as consistently good. There's like this moment at the end of the movie. Rhea Perlman is great as Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie, by the way. But there's this moment at the end where Barbie and Ruth are having a heart-to-heart, and it goes on a little too long, and it's a little too sappy, sentimental for my taste. It was like, yeah, we get it. And they're like, oh, well, the ending isn't, Barbie and Ken getting together. It's Barbie taking her power back and reestablishing Barbie Land as hers, and Ken needing to kind of figure out his thing, which apparently is horses. I'm all for it. You go, Ken. You go start a ranch. Let's do Dude Ranch Ken. Michael Cera as Alan was really fun. And like, I don't know. It was cute. It was cute. And I don't know, would I have felt differently if I'd seen it before Oppenheimer? Maybe. I think it would have been more jarring to see Barbie first and then Oppenheimer, though. Like I said, it felt more like I had a meal and a dessert. The differences in the audiences may have affected the way I, received the movie. That is, again, part of the cinematic, milieu. But it was good. It was good. It was fun. But I'd see Oppenheimer again. I don't necessarily feel the need to see Barbie again, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, I get what you're saying. And I think it's a good message. Like I said, it's a very gendered message. And as I was saying, like, it isn't that Barbie and Ken get together. It's more like she gets to be herself and her thing, and he gets to be himself. I mean, she does at one point apologize to Ken for taking him for granted. And she's like, yeah, every night didn't have to be girls' night. I could have spent more time with you. But she's also like, but I don't. She very firmly friend zones him. It's like, but I don't see you that way. And that's fair. I think it's a good thing to tell women. You can have guy friends, and you don't have to be expected to turn that into something else. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It just kind of felt kind of empty. Best use of Matchbox 20, which, as people who know me know, I am a fan. Even if it is Ken's patriarchy song. Push, by the way, is the song. But overall, I had some laugh out loud moments. Almost entirely Ken and Will Ferrell stuff. The Barbie stuff wasn't particularly funny in my book. Like I said, I can respect the message and I can identify with it. I actually more identified with America Ferrera's character and her daughter's kind of, the burgeoning independence that comes with your kids kind of growing up and out of the things that you used to bond over. That hit home and wasn't really explored as much for me. But Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie was a hoot. And I used to have the Ken with the earrings, so I was like, hey, I had that Ken. And yeah, it was cute. I liked Oppenheimer more. There may have been a variety of reasons for that. But yeah, it was a good day out. And taken together, it is kind of a weird, wild ride, but I do say I would recommend seeing Oppenheimer first and then Barbie, because I do think going from Barbie to Oppenheimer might just be a little much. But anyway, that was our adventure into Barbenheimer, as I say, for us it was more like Oppenbie. But if you've seen either or both, if you did the Barbenheimer thing, let me know. I want to hear your experiences. What is your take on either of these films? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Did any of the messages resonate with you? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time. Till then, take care.